How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another supporters club. It's been a little while, but I thought with the international break here and the first part of the season done, we bring another supporters club to you guys. Make sure you hit the like button as you come in and make sure you hit the like button as you go out, people. But I've got a few of the regulars here. Starting to my left, we've got Gunali in the building, Sheroy, and Mr. Chris Hudson there at the end. Becoming somewhat of a regular Chris on this show.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it should be Turkish and Chris present the supporters club soon enough. But listen, big up everyone that's come in. Make sure you guys hit the like button, give us your thoughts in the comment section below, all of that. And this one's gonna be not so much a review because it's only been 7 games, but let's get our thoughts around those first 7 games. We've had 1 postponed against Everton, but the 7 games, 6 wins, 1 draw, and something positive with the performances. You know, there's more to it than just wins. We're seeing a style of play, we're seeing development on last season, and the wins are coming with it too, albeit that 1 loss at Old Trafford, which does hurt, being Old Trafford, being United. I think we've put that to bed with the result and the performance against Brentford. Sheroy, let's start with you and get your general thoughts around the first 7 games in Arsenal right now.
Really good. I mean, the main thing for me is that we seem to have put a few old wounds to bed. So the idea that if we lose 1, we might lose in a cluster. Or the idea that if we lose key players to injury, those who come in aren't adequate enough for us to get the result. Or the idea that if we go behind in the game, we can't necessarily get the 3 points. We've sort of put all of that to bed, albeit against, I know these are teams that a lot of people say Arsenal should be beating. But it's great to put that to bed this early in the season, you know, because I think psychologically it's massive going forward, just for the belief of the fans and the players.
Yeah.
And crucially, look, I always like looking at the season as if I didn't have hindsight. So if you asked me at the beginning of this season that we'd be top of the league at the international break, a few of the injuries that we had wouldn't have cost us, and we have 6 wins and a loss, I would have bitten your hand off, you know. So there's not much to complain about at this stage of the season for me, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I feel, you know. I said in my last fan cam, I said going into this international break, every Arsenal fan would have taken being top of the league, without a shadow of a doubt. And in that context, be happy. Yes, there are concerns, you know. At times we've looked at the bench, we've looked at some of the injuries, and we thought, oof, have we left ourselves light? And I think we have. But hopefully the fitness remains and Partey comes back and albeit he's away with Ghana now, let's hope, fingers crossed, he returns fully fit. But let's hope those are put to bed too, because over the last couple of seasons, it's really cost us. Chris, first 7 games, there's been a smile on all of our faces over the first 7 weeks of the season.
No, I've really enjoyed it. I'll tell you what else I've loved. Out of the 4 away games, we kept 3 clean sheets.
Massive, massive.
And I love a clean sheet.
Yeah.
I like to see the Arsenal defend well. I think we're playing some great football. I'm glad to see users hit the ground, and because in the past, you know, when we bought strikers, and you'll think, oh, how long will it take him to score his first goal?
It's straight, yeah.
And the way he's leading the team, from everyone's following him. What an example!
I love him. He improved the standards.
Yeah. Jacko.
Yeah, and we're going to get into individual players as well, because I think Jacko is definitely someone that we should talk about.
He's wonderful. Tierney's come back after his injury. He was a bit dodgy. I think it was I can't remember what game he played. I thought, but he was back to his best. We got a competition for places. So what's there to moan about?
Yeah, it's true. Lee?
Look, for me, I think the biggest thing that I'm actually quite impressed with and happy with is actually the manager. I think everyone on this panel, and actually a lot of Arsenal fans, acknowledge that we have a lot of quality and we can go toe to toe with Man City. I think we can go toe to toe with Liverpool, and actually on our day, we can beat those teams. But I think where everyone kind of gives us a little bit of a negative point is the managers. The managers for the other teams kind of have that upper hand over Arteta, the quality of the substitutions, the actual in-game management. And I think this season, he's improving. I think that's all I wanted from him. I wanted him to show. There's been games where I still feel like, I've been on watch-alongs with you and I felt it's not good enough. Crystal Palace, I felt he left it a little bit late at times, I'll be honest. And actually the Zurich game, we had a long back and forth for that watch-along, it was about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think, if I think about it, over the course of the season, he's been really good with his substitutions. I think he's been good with the time of them, and I think he's been good with the actual in-game management. And I think lastly, he's had his team ready, because we didn't have Odegaard against Brentford. We didn't have, who was the other player that was missing? Zinchenko, sorry, apologies. And we had a perfect deputy for both players. And what happened? We had quality and we did the job. So I think Arteta's really starting to show that he can cut it with the big boys. He's not better than them, I'm not saying that, but he can cut it, and that's what we want, because I think that's going to be the determining factor to say whether we're going to get top 4 or not.
So is that belief coming from the fact that we're beating the team we should be beating? Because the one game we had against the Big Six side, Man United game, we'd lost that one. You're saying you're more confident going against City, Liverpool, toe-to-toe, but does that come from beating the teams we should be beating, or where does that come from? Because I look at it this season, we've got 4 games against City and Liverpool. Win one of those, and even that, the standards are quite low there. But just win one of those, because it's been so long since we've done something like that.
Didn't even score against Liverpool last
season. Or the season before, I don't think we did. But I think even going off your point, I do think that it's a thing where, for me, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, look, he made a mistake against Man United, and I think we all acknowledge that. He kind of just brought on the subs and he almost ruined the flow of the game for Arsenal. But
I think the players were naive as well, because
exactly that.
At 1-1, they just opened up.
They did. So I'm not putting it all on Arteta, but I think he was a little bit gun-ho with that decision to bring on those subs at the time. But I do think that he has shown, I'm not going to say that he's been bad for one game or made a decision bad in one game and the other 6 games, I'm not going to banish him for that. And I guess your point is, yes, we should be beating those teams, but other teams aren't doing it. So there are no easy games in this Premier League. I said it before and I'm going to say it again. So yes, they seem to be teams that we should be beating, but not everyone does it.
We were the better team, but against Man United.
We was.
And that's what I was going to say. I think even just forgetting the substitutes, I think he had us ready to play that game. We went 1-0 ahead and unfortunately the goal was ruled out, but we played fantastically after the first 10 minutes or so. I think we played well even when we were 3-1 down. We were still creating chances. So it's not just about the substitution. I think everything what Arteta's doing at this moment in time, you can't fault him. I genuinely can't fault him too much.
I want to move on to some players now, and Chris mentioned a couple of those players. 3 players in particular I'm picking out: Granit Xhaka, Gabriel Jesus, and I'm going to add William Saliba to that as well.
Can we also add in Ben White, please? Can we please?
You're welcome to add in who you want. It's as much your show as it is mine.
We need to add in Ben White, but sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but Ben White needs to be
We'll definitely touch in on him as well, because you are right. I think he's gone under the radar this season and unsung in that position so far. We've had Tomiyasu back recently, and none of us have really... I'd like to see Tomiyasu back in, but Ben White has been very good in that position. The only time I've said Tomiyasu should come back in is when I've had doubts about Gabriel and said Ben White might need to slot in next to Saliba. But in his position under the radar, we'll mention him. But let's talk about Granit Xhaka first. Someone I've been very critical about over the years. A lot of Arsenal fans have been critical. Granit Xhaka in himself has caused a divide amongst many Arsenal fans. Chris, let's start with you on Granit Xhaka, because you mentioned him first. I can't remember off the top of my head, but how have you felt about Xhaka prior to this season?
I've always said he's not a Marmite. I either love him or I've always loved him.
Okay.
So I'm not coming from a negative.
Yeah.
But this season, he looks like a completely new player, because he's playing in a different role and he's got better players around him. And it's great to see.
You put it down to the better players and Arteta changing the role.
He's changing his role. So it don't say a lot for the coaches before him, does it?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. That's been my criticism over the years. In that position, in front of the defence, he's been more a liability than someone that you can rely upon. Now in this new position, he's bringing more than he's not. And essentially, yes, some wayward passes here and there, but when you're in that position...
But he's still got a stupid yellow card, isn't he?
We saw that last game now.
So annoying.
You can't get that out of his game, though. And I think going to what you're saying, if you do take that out of his game, you do get a completely different player, in my opinion. So you take the swings with the roundabouts, in my opinion, with Jacko. But yeah, I mean...
But the crowd was singing his name.
Yeah. It feels like it's come full circle for a lot of fans with Granit Xhaka. I tend to judge on seasons, but I'm more than willing to give credit for the first 7 games, because here we are, international rate, top of the league, and he's one of the 3 players I'll say is my top 3 so far this season.
He comes out well in the Amazon documentary. I thought that done him a bit of good as well. People who watched that might change their opinion on him.
Well,
I think he's a very good club man.
Seems so, yeah.
He's liked within the group.
Yeah.
He's been very vocal in a lot of interviews about how he felt when the relationship with the fans was broken. And I think part of him being more vocal in trying to show the human side to him was to go some way towards repairing that relationship. But he always alluded to the fact that it may never be what it could have been had he not acted the way that he did, historically, right? And I always felt that there would definitely be progress in terms of improving the relationship, but it would never necessarily be fully repaired. However, looking at the way people were singing his name, looking at the emotion that he showed, combined with the fact that he's performing on the pitch, I mean, you can't show that always has to be front and center, right? Because you can send all the right messages. If you're not performing on the pitch, you're never going to fully repair a relationship. But he's now also doing that. I personally am more than willing to let bygones be bygones, and I will give him his flowers. And he's been incredible, and long may it continue.
You've had a similar train of thought to me over the years.
Yeah, in terms of not even necessarily him personally. It was just the fact that his mistakes were costing us points.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that's always going to aggravate me. And I think that managers that came before Arteta may not necessarily have had the Partey in the position so that now Xhaka can have the role that he has. Mm-hmm. But it also took Arteta a little while, despite the fact that he had Partey, to eventually give Xhaka this more advanced role. But now that he has, he's playing in the position that we know he plays for with Switzerland. He's playing in the position that Arsene Wenger actually articulated that he thought would be the best fit for him. So I don't know why he didn't necessarily play there under Wenger. But now that he is, I personally think that relationship has been repaired. Mm-hmm. And that is brilliant, given that he's clearly an integral part of the manager's plans. He's definitely one of the most experienced players. He's definitely someone that people look up to.
Yeah.
Him having this relationship with the fans and him performing the way he is, most importantly, is good for Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I mentioned season long, and people might be out there saying, "Oh, Turkish is already," the reason I mentioned season long is because the first 7 games, great. He's in my top 3
Back
players
at the
of
last
season
season, I thought he was quite good too. Though.
Yeah, since he's been moved, he's added something more so than taken away in the other position for me. But also, we mentioned the silly yellow card. There's still 31 fixtures left of this season, and I want to see this improvement over a longer period of time. Not many players play good for 100% of the season, a handful at most in world football. But I want to see this consistency, this level, this standard for a longer period. And cutting that, listen, the yellow card here and there is fine. Obviously, avoid the silly ones because it can cost you more. But I don't want to see any big moments in big games that cost us.
He's on 2 now?
Yeah.
I think he's on 2 for the season.
Yeah.
But crucially, I don't want to jinx it, but he's also always fit.
Yeah.
He's also always there for selection, and you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
Well, Lee Judge, that last season on the Forever Arsenal podcast we do, he mentioned that. He said, Jacko's our best midfielder, and at the time, I laughed it off. But he mentioned that his availability is key behind his thought process of naming him the best midfielder. Yes, Partey has more quality, but you can't rely on Thomas Partey to be there to play, whereas with Jacko you can, and then all right, your grievance might come with...
The only yellow cards, you got to think perhaps Arsenal players do get refereed a bit differently.
Yeah.
But look at that Jesus.
Well, that's what a stat. So he plays for Man City, 28 games, gets 1 yellow. He plays for Arsenal, and he gets 4 and 7. So I want someone to explain that to me.
And look, even...
No, I was just going to say the one that he got against Brentford, I think, was his first foul. And that was his first foul in the match.
Same
and he got
thing for Jesus as well. And I think...
For Jesus, that's what I mean.
For Jesus, yeah.
And it's interesting because I watched a little bit of a snippet from the Players' Tribute, and Jacko was on there. And he literally mentioned the fact that Arsenal players get refereed a lot differently to other players from other teams. So I don't really want to make it like an excuse, because everyone's going to sort of put their violins out for Arsenal saying, oh, we're making excuses. Look, there's no excuses. It is what it is. You can see the stats are there. You can see in terms of the game. But look, for me, when I think about Xhaka, my major issue with Xhaka is when he did what he did with the captain's armband, it wasn't even the actual action. It was that he didn't acknowledge anything, and he didn't really want to take that first step to say sorry and apologise. And I think a lot of people would have been a lot more kind-hearted and warm to him. I think that's what the trigger was for all this sort of dismay around him. Look, the player himself, you can't doubt the quality. It's just, as Sheroy said, I think it's just the inconsistencies that are so consistent with him that make him that sort of up and down fluctuating player. And that's what I think is, and that's where I think Arsenal fans have had their issues with him. I think when you think about the last time we won the Premier League, think about the kind of players we had in that midfield. Yeah. He literally is that player. He's a 84, 85 kg player that has got the attributes, the warrior mentality at the right age. The last time we had a player like that, I'm not going to lie to you, petite.
Yeah.
If you think about Cazorla, Fabregas, Haleb, all of these players, Nasri that played in that number 8, number 10,
different mould.
They're different mould, but we haven't won anything. And we haven't won anything with Jacko, but we're seeming to reap the rewards of his performances now, and they're coinciding with us being in an advantageous position. So look, it's hard for me to say it because I've been in the negative mindset of him because of just the when I think about him, I always compare him to Kante because of what Arsene Wenger did with the
summer,
Kante.
yeah, yeah.
We was meant to get him for 30 million,
Yeah.
but we spent the money on Xhaka. So, look, I just wanted to continue to do what he's doing. I'm giving him his flowers. He's playing out of his skin, and I think this is the real Jacko.
And this is definitely his best 7 games in a row for
Yeah,
Arsenal.
100%.
By far. And like you said, since Xhaka's come in, no Champions League football. It's essential that this season we make it. And I mentioned earlier about coming full circle, and I think for Granit Xhaka that will be coming full circle, because something against him as well is that we haven't had Champions League football since you're here. You're in a key position. You've always been in a key position. Let's make it work now. Another player that's had his best 7 games for Arsenal Football Club in a row, William Saliba. I tell you, it happens to be his first 7 games, very different to Xhaka's introduction to Arsenal. But before we end on Jesus in terms of the key players, and Ben White, William Saliba, man, he's come in 20, 21 years of age.
It's a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, he's improved. We was happy with Gabriel and Ben White coming in over the last couple of years. We've seen an improvement defensively. Saliba's come in at this age and improved the improvement we've already seen.
It's funny, right? I want to get you guys' opinion. Big up to my boy. My boy said at the start of the season, Saliba's going to be in the team of the year. Not no young player, centre back team of the year. That's what he said. And look, at this moment in time, I can't argue against him. I literally cannot argue against what he said. He has been out of this world. I don't even blame him for the mistakes in the Man United game, because I don't really put it on him. I don't really feel that he was the main issue. I don't think he was a protagonist in that situation. But for me, Rolls Royce a defender, no Varane. I don't want to hear any of that stuff right now. I'm giving it to Saliba. He's been unbelievable.
Put it this way: if he was on the market, every club in the world would be going for him.
80 million right now.
No, but more than that. Compare him to Fofana, who was his counterpart in France. What did Fofana just go for? Around 80 million?
Yeah, so
No, but Fofana's had a season in the Premier League.
I understand that. But he's had a season in the Premier League. But the way that people are talking about Saliba and the performances Saliba has now put in, I honestly don't think that you can differentiate and value that much, despite the fact that Fofana necessarily had a full season.
I say that's the base now, 80 million.
There you go.
Get him to sign a contract.
Forget price tags. That's exactly what I'm on. We need to sign these men up.
But I mean, the main thing for me that's impressed me, I mean, obviously a lot of people talk about Saliba's physicality and his positional awareness and so forth, but for me, and I think this is integral if you want to play for Mikel Arteta, it's his bravery on the ball. There was this one moment, I think it was Ivan Toney that was pressing him. It set up our goal, in fact.
Yeah.
It's not that he is late to turn. It's almost as if he deliberately wants to draw in a player so that he can eventually eliminate them when he does turn and take someone out. And that takes real bravery on the ball and confidence in your own ability to do.
Just on that subject, because you just reminded me, remember early on in Arteta's reign here at Arsenal, Jacko came out and said something along the lines of, in training, Arteta wants us to wait till the last possible moment before and that's something Pep says, draw them in, get it out. And that Saliba's brought that straight away.
There you go.
It's a natural. Some things, again, I'm sure Chris is going to kind of speak on this as well. Some things you can't teach. There are some things, it's just that instinct. You just know it. And I feel like with him, there are things that you just get with him that you can't tell someone else how to do it. You get that feel within a game, and you just can't replicate that for somebody else. And he's just got he oozes a quality in abundance.
What I think that comes back to, not just with him, is this group of players for me now, they don't seem afraid to make mistakes. In years gone by, I think there might have been a lot of people that were playing the safe pass because they didn't want to be the headline, because they knew that we had so many catastrophes on the back pages of newspapers on a Sunday morning that they didn't want to make that mistake. But I was watching the Inside Hale End documentary, and this seems to be something that resonates through the club. One of their pillars is champion mentality, and the main thing they try and emphasise behind that is, to have champion mentality, you have to understand that champions have missed shots. Champions have had misplaced back passes. Champions have had red cards. It's about how you react to that. And this group of players, that I think the confidence that now the manager has instilled in them means they're not afraid to make those mistakes. They stick to the philosophy. And that's why people like William Saliba can wait until Ivan Toney pushes them and then eliminate them and then we go.
Ramsdale, you see with his kicking sometimes.
Throughout the whole pitch.
Yeah, you see it. You see it with his kicking at time. I know we're speaking on Saliba, but Ramsdale, you see the kicking, he makes a mistake, goes back in, makes a great save, or does the kicking again.
And that's where the division in the fan base hasn't helped the players. I've not been for the division, but I've been for the, being against the ownership and being unhappy.
Really? Have you?
I've mentioned it a few times. If
exclusive on
If you search Turkish Kroenke on YouTube, you might see a couple videos here and there. But look, Chris, you mentioned clean sheets. William Saliba has been a key part of that. You mentioned Ben White, but touching on the defence, and do you feel like it's...
I feel this is a long, long time since I felt this confident watching Arsenal defend. That Brentford game, they were never going to tell they weren't going to score.
Yeah.
And the same, I went to Bournemouth, I knew they were. Palace, I was just so secure watching them.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had
And I think that's down to him.
Saliba coming in, and
He's a wonderful, so I think we're very lucky to have him, I tell you.
and the contract is important.
It is.
It's massive.
Very important. I mean, you know, William Saliba, he wasn't an unknown entity coming into this season. We've heard a lot about him, but in terms of putting on the Arsenal shirt, an unknown entity. I've talked a lot about Xhaka and Martinelli's contracts heading into this season and not allowing it to go into the 18-month, 12-month territory. I mean, Saliba's come in and, in my opinion, all of a sudden, Saliba's the most important contract. I'm not saying, listen, all three are very important, but when I wake up and read, or when I hear Sky Sports say William Saliba signed a new contract, I think it's going to...
The thing is, you've got the World Cup coming up.
Yeah.
You don't want him going there not signed, because if he has a storming World Cup.
Yeah.
True.
And I think even on the contracts, I don't want it to be 4, 5 years. I want a 6, 7-year contract, man. And I'm not saying that they have to stay for the whole 7 years, but if you're locked in, we're protected as well. I don't want it to be a 4-year deal, because then you're just thinking he's 21 years old, 4 years, 25. He's not even in his prime yet. He's not even, Martinelli won't be even in his prime yet. Xhaka won't even be in his prime yet. 21 just the other day. 4-year contract doesn't really do much for us.
Yeah.
So I don't want him to be here for a little bit. I want him to be the one with all three of them.
The only thing is, I think them longer contracts are probably a Xhaka might get that because he's English. I don't know if...
Saliba's more than worth
No,
that.
but I mean in terms of accepting a contract of that length, I think if you're English playing in England, you might be more, you know...
I think Fofana accepted a 7-year deal at Chelsea from memory.
I think it was 6.
Was it?
Okay.
It was a long contract,
Go for it.
but that's
Yeah,
something that
go
comes
for
from American sport. They tie down players for a long time, and I think that's what their owners trying to do with their players now.
Yeah.
But we've got American owners too.
That's true. Oh, yeah. I've talked about that before as well. Lee, Ben White, let's move on to him now.
I just want to big up Ben White, man. I feel like with Ben White, as you said, everything about him has gone under the radar. He's not been flashy. He's not done anything that's probably a highlight reel. He hasn't... I don't think he's got an assist or a goal this season at this moment in time. But if you think about the flack that he came into this time last season, £50 million, you had everyone on these major channels that are apparently experts questioning Arteta, why he's spending the money when we have Saliba at home, or why we send him out on loan, all of these different things. He's come in last season, done well. This season, he's gone up another level, and he's really starting to take the onus of, I want to be playing for Arsenal. And I feel like you think about him he's just probably unassuming as a person, as a player, but he's overlapping, he's improving, he's crossing into the box, he's almost a bit of like a silent assassin. He's almost like a ninja on the pitch.
Isn't that the best mark for a defender though?
Yeah, you don't want to know what he's doing. And I was at the Fulham game and we didn't play well, but he was a standout. And as a fullback, marauding forward, and Xhaka didn't play well that game, but he was really starting to make Xhaka play better with the way he was playing and sort of getting into the box and his intricate play. Again, I'm not saying he's been the best player for Arsenal, but I really think he is a standout player for Arsenal and he needs to be mentioned more as one of those best players that Arsenal have at this moment in time because of the scrutiny that he came in for. And now what he's doing in this team, I genuinely don't believe if he's not playing that we don't get those clean sheets, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, just on that, one thing that you can always look to when someone's starting is what their competition thinks of them. Now, don't forget, he's keeping Tomiyasu out of this team, and that was unthinkable last year. If Tomiyasu is fit, Tomiyasu starts. Tomiyasu gave an interview yesterday to a Japanese media outlet, and obviously things get lost in translation because he was speaking in his native language, but he said something along the lines of, I'm not happy that I'm not starting, but if you look at the quality that's starting ahead of me, you understand why I'm not starting, and I have to improve, and I'm going to fight for my place back.
When he gets his chance.
Exactly. So one, he's not complaining about the fact that he's not playing because he rates Ben White the same way that you do. But two, that elevates the backup because he is now saying, I need to improve to get back in the team. How many years have gone by since we haven't had that? And we're talking about the clean sheets. We've got clean sheets that haven't been the same back fours. Sometimes it is Zinny, sometimes it's Tini. You know, sometimes Tomiyasu is coming on for the last 15 or 20 minutes and White's gone off or whatever. We were in a position last year where if any of that back four were injured, we all needed to wear like adult diapers when we were watching the match.
Yeah.
We're not in that position anymore. You know, so and that's testament
Come
to
a
the
long
recruit.
way from.
And another thing about Ben White, because he's not really interested in football.
Yeah, doesn't even watch it apparently.
You know what you were saying when he started. People were saying he doesn't read tweets, he doesn't read nothing.
Yeah.
He doesn't watch
when he
any
goes
football.
home. He go out. He doesn't watch football. So he's not interested. That's for him. It's a job.
I think they asked him about the Invincibles, and he said he doesn't really know much about them. He just doesn't. He tries to separate that. He doesn't want to have the scrutiny of watching and seeing what people are saying about him. But regardless of that, I'm literally just talking on the pitch. He has absolutely been dynamite for Arsenal. And again, I feel like he needs to be earmarked as one of those players that are really significant in the way that we are playing out from the back. It gives us another outlet. Who does Ramsdale always pass the ball out to? It's either Martinelli or Ramsdale, or Ben White.
And when he was at Leeds, when he was at Leeds, he played in midfield.
There you go.
And he was voted player of the season.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Still not good enough for Gareth Southgate though.
Oh, come on, man.
Don't worry about it.
That's another supporters club. That's the World Cup edition.
I'm supporting Turkey, mate. I didn't
You're not even in it. I don't even know. People, what's he done to me?
Listen,
man?
man.
Ireland ain't in it, Turkey ain't in it, forget about it. There's no World Cup this December.
Jamaica ain't there either, man.
That's it, we'll be neutrals. But listen, let's round off this segment where we're looking back with our individual not player of the season so far, but standout player for us in the first 7 games. Chris, let's start with you. Saliba, Sheroy.
Odegaard. I think when you take the captaincy,
I haven't even mentioned him.
Yeah, don't forget this man was an Arsenal loanee, and I know there's been a lot of people that were talking about other options that we had. A lot of people were saying, look for someone like Maddison. You know, why didn't you shut out Maddison? You went for the cheaper option. I've said it before when I've been on this platform. And there's been a lot of talk about, well, what happens to players when you apply pressure to them at 15 or 16? Mm-hmm. He signed for Real Madrid when he was 16 years old.
Can't get bigger than that.
Exactly. And even though he didn't necessarily hit the heights at Real Madrid, he went off to Sociedad, he worked hard, he came here on loan. Arteta saw something in him and said, that's my man. Mm-hmm. When you take the captaincy at a club like Arsenal Football Club and you are the guy that has to enforce the manager's philosophy on the pitch and everything runs through you, that's some responsibility. Yeah. And he's not playing at 27 or 28 years old. Mm-hmm. That's some responsibility to have. Everything goes through him, and he started putting the trigger a bit more. And for me, he's the standout because I just think we're a better Arsenal. We are the Arsenal when Martin Odegaard's on that pitch.
Yes, Saliba from Chris, Odegaard from Sheroy.
I can't sway away from the obvious with Jesus. I think he's just been. He's genuinely come in and been Arsenal's best player, and he's raised the levels of everybody else. So I just think he's got to take it because of that. Not only has he been impactful on the pitch, but he's been impactful with everybody else that's raised the quality. So I've got to give it to Jesus.
I can't disagree with Lee. I can't disagree with Sheroy, but I'm going to go with Saliba and agree with Chris. But that just shows, it's been a long time since, I said last season, we've liked a few players in the side. It's been a long time since we can all pick different players for, We could have said Jacko. Yeah.
We could have named a lot of players, in fact. The way Zinchenko's slotted in. Hasn't Martinelli grown and progressed? He's getting goals now. We could have named a lot of players.
We've not mentioned Saka.
No, we haven't,
Second assist in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken? Or is it goal contributions?
I think he's second to De Bruyne.
Just behind De Bruyne. And this is him when he's off the pace, apparently.
Let's look forward a little bit and just look at the next 5 fixtures and briefly give our thoughts about minimum expectation. We've got Tottenham at home next, we've got Liverpool at home after that, Leeds away, Southampton away, and then Nottingham Forest back at the Emirates. 9 games in October in total. Those are the next 5 Premier League games, 15 points up for grabs. Lee, what are you looking at there?
It's going to be tough, but do you know what? I believe in this team. I genuinely believe in this team. Look, the North London derby, I don't think we need to talk about that because not only do I think we will win, but I think because we're at home and we always beat them at home, where it's almost a given. Obviously, no football match is a given, but that game is a stickler of a game because it's the North London derby. So anything can happen, and form doesn't matter. I just think we just need to go into those 5 games, but all the way to the end of October with those 9 games that we have, with confidence. Just keep playing, making sure that Arteta's making the right decisions with the rotation, etc., etc. And I think we'll be all right. Our football is doing the talking. And when you have other teams, top teams that are not playing as well and getting results, it can either go for you or against you. But when you're playing well, you've got a style and you've got a system. It bodes well for the team because you're playing in a way that alludes to you winning more games than not.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of stuck with this whole aura with Wenger and Emery, etc., who played nice football. We never won anything. But I feel like now there's a bit of a nasty streak
Grit,
well as the grit and that quality. So look, I'm feeling confident.
So out of 15 minimum for you.
It's hard. Look, I know we're beating Spurs. That's all I know. So look, every Arsenal fan, I'm telling you now, I'm carrying all these Tottenham fans' coffins when we get to the North London derby. I'm gonna put them all on my shoulder because we're beating them. But I'm gonna say 12.
12. Sheroy, thoughts on the next 5, and then a little minimum expectation.
Tottenham for me is a must-win. I don't want to keep going back to the Manchester United game, but I know a lot of people say that we played better or we were the better team. I don't necessarily agree, because I think we definitely played the more attractive football, but for me 50% of football is defence and 50% of it is attack. You can't get full marks in attack if you only score 1 goal, and you certainly can't get full marks in defence if you score 3. So I think we were definitely easier on the eye. We definitely had the more entertaining philosophy, but I don't think you can say you play better if you concede 3 goals. And the style of the goals that we conceded, that's exactly how Antonio Conte is going to set up. He's going to say, well, they probably are a better footballing side than you, but we know where we can hurt them. The difference is, hopefully, Partey's fit and he's back, and I think we could have alleviated some of those United goals if Partey was fit. But Tottenham is a must-win. One, to put that Manchester United stuff to bed, because if we then play the better football against Tottenham and we lose, then people really do start asking questions.
Trend,
And all this talk about, well, are you genuine top 4 contenders? That might dissipate if we still don't learn from these lessons. Because how often are you going to have to learn the same lesson? Liverpool, for me, again, is another one where I think if we're really going to show signs of progress and being top 4 contenders, I mean, I know some people are labelling us title contenders. I'm not doing that just yet. I certainly think you can't lose at home to these teams.
If we beat these 2 teams,
then I think the narrative completely changes. If we beat Tottenham and we beat Liverpool, despite it being at home, I don't think anyone can discount us when it comes to being, maybe not necessarily finishing first, but being up there. But that's a long way away. Particularly because it just so happens that Son scores a hat-trick before they play us, and Thiago's fit just before they play us, and Konate comes back to full fitness before they play us. And the rest of the games, I think, can win, will win.
So
out of all of them. Well, I think we will. I think we will beat Tottenham. Maybe I'll get clipped if we don't, but I think we will beat Tottenham. And I think we have what it takes to beat Liverpool, but I wouldn't be adversely opposed to a draw.
But let's hope Jesus doesn't pick up that 5th yellow against Tottenham, because we're going to need him for Liverpool.
He will, won't he?
It seems that
it's written in the stars, isn't it?
And we've seen that.
So he'll get booked, and Richarlison, if he plays for Tottenham, will get sent off. I think in that North London derby, I can guarantee you there'll be a red card. Because I'm thinking, think back to the game at White Hart Lane. They bullied us. And
do you think the atmosphere will be as much of a cauldron as it was, purely because of what was on the line that day, though? I think Arsenal fans are going to be right up for that game.
And I was going to say...
The players as well. I know the Ivan Toney thing is not similar, but there's still kind of the chip on the shoulder, don't disrespect us,
I was going to say, Chris, as well, I genuinely believe I have all those 5 games. The Tottenham game is the easiest game.
Really?
Because we raise our level. I feel like you don't have to do anything mentality-wise with them other than just ensuring that you've got the game plan.
I'll tell you what could be a tricky game is Leeds away.
I'm looking at that one as tricky,
I think that's a
So
hard game.
I'm beating Forest, I'm beating we owe Southampton.
Yep, we do.
Right, so I've beaten them. Tottenham will take care of itself.
Yeah, 9 points there.
Liverpool, I think we'll draw.
10. And you're looking at Leeds.
I think we can outscore Leeds away.
Leeds.
I think we can outscore
So let's say
Leeds
you're
away.
saying a draw there minimum. So you're saying 11 points minimum out of 15.
No, say we come out undefeated there, I'll be quite happy. But we've got to get through this psychological barrier of permanently getting beat by Liverpool and Man City.
Yeah, 100%. I think you 3 are
It's all
pretty
up
much agreed on 12 points. I'm going to agree with you. I think 12 points is a fair. I looked at the first 5 fixtures of the season. I said 13, afford 1 draw in there. I'm going to say 12 this time. A couple of difficult fixtures, but I think...
But remember, there's variables. VAR. Who's the referee?
We can't account for
get away
any
from
of
any
those
of
now.
that,
Who's the ref on the day?
Yeah.
Injuries.
Yeah.
And it also, I think you think someone like Nottingham Forest, you never know, they could sack Cooper.
Easy.
So that might either galvanise.
Tottenham, because Conte could walk out on Spurs.
I mean, it could happen. But look, I don't think that's going to happen, of course not. But you're right, and you never know. But I do think not in terms of quality, because we know Spurs have good quality. They're a good team, like we have to admit it. But we also have to understand that I think we've lost one game at the Emirates in 20-something years against them.
3-2, you remember?
Yeah, again, it was a last-minute goal that we conceded. I think Yunus Kabul scored.
Kabul, yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Like, for me, we don't lose against them, and we don't even draw against them at home. We always beat them. So if we're just going off history and we're going off what we do when we haven't had a good team, we always beat them. So why would I not expect us to beat them now when I do genuinely we're a better team with more quality?
I think they'll be very physical in the North London derby.
I think we're going to beat them.
Hub up for it. And we learned our mistakes from last season. People, this has been the Supporters Club. Thank you to Chris, thank you to Sheroy, and thank you to Guna Lee. Hit the like button, as I said earlier, on your way out. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And yeah, international break. We're returning for the North London derby next Saturday. Midday kickoff, 12:30, I believe.
Yep.
I'll see if I get another Supporters Club in before then. If not, there's super fan debates coming out. There's a box-to-box with me and Tobes and so much content coming out. The David Dean interview. By the time this video drops, it's either out or it's coming out real soon. And that is a banger, people. I'm vexed I wasn't there for it because I had some questions, but it is what it is. Hopefully Robbie done a good job. But love for the love. We are out, people. Peace.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.